Longtime viewers of my channel may well recall that Gina and I like to go car camping at Kujbaquak National Park in New Brunswick, Canada. We go for 2 weeks every summer, and this year, for the first time, we took along a 12-volt refrigerator, which I have a separate review on. Now, to power that system, we needed a power bank, in fact, 2 power banks, and a 200-watt solar panel. And the system worked great, but the only issue I had with it was the fact that the solar panel was not waterproof. Weather resistant maybe, but not waterproof. And what that meant is if I left the solar panel set up at my campsite and we went out to any of the trails or to the beachhead, I had to be very aware of what the weather was so that it didn't get exposed to the sudden rains that often occur there. Well, when I got home, I started looking at the availability of affordable waterproof solar panels, and I found some at a rather good price. These are the 100-watt ALLPOWERS solar panel. If you're interested in hearing my thoughts on them, keep watching. So as I mentioned, when Gina and I got home from our car camping trip, I started looking around for waterproof solar panels. And one of the first places I did check out was the ALLPOWERS website. Now, the reason being is I've reviewed a number of the ALLPOWERS power stations in the past, as well as a couple of their solar panels. So when I went to their website, I was pleasantly surprised to see that they had added a new line of offerings, including an upscale power station and these waterproof solar panels. So I reached out to ALLPOWERS. They did agree to send me a 200-watt solar panel. That's what I was looking for. However, shortly thereafter, they got back to me to say they were out of stock. It'd be a while before they could put them back into stock and ship them to me. Would I accept 2 100-watt solar panels? Well, I gave it a little bit of thought because it wasn't what I was originally looking for. And what I discovered, or what I decided on, was the 2 100-watt solar panels would give me a couple of options I wouldn't otherwise have. To start with, they're smaller in size, each of them, of course, than the 200-watt solar panel it was. So when I didn't need the larger, more powerful solar panel, I could just take one of the 100-watt solar panels. But when I wanted to use the extra capacity, I could attach the 2 of them together. Well, that's the reason I accept the 2 of them. And yes, I'm still happy that I did. However, there was a bit of a learning curve on how to properly and safely attach 2 panels either in series or in parallel. I'll explain what I mean in a minute. So what I thought I would do is I would just bring you down, take a look at the solar panels, give you a few specifications for them, talk about their key features, but most importantly, I'm going to take them outside and set up one of my power stations so you can see them in operation. So when the panel arrived, inside of the packaging was a plastic bag that included a number of things. To start with, it included the manual with the warranty information and a diagram which shows how you might connect 2 of these panels together in either series or in parallel. There was also a package of 6 of these Velcro connectors that you can use with the panels to attach them to something. I'll show you how you might do that in a moment. And the last thing was this connecting cable. So it comes with the MC4 connectors on one end, and on the other end, the more common XT60 connectors. And I think these are the more common connectors, especially the MC4. That's usually what most solar panels start out with. In fact, that's what this panel has on the ends of it, or the MC4 connectors. I'll show you those in a minute. I wanted to go through a few of the specifications for this panel. You're going to get a much better look at the size of it when I get outdoors. So let's just start with those specs. So it is 1 meter in length. That's a little hard to show here, but 1 meter in length, 23.6 inches wide. It has a thickness of 3 millimeters. Yeah, you know, just 3 millimeters. That's how thick this is, not very thick at all. The weight for each one of these panels is 5.5 pounds. Now, a few of the operating specifications include the fact that these have a range of temperature operations from minus 20 degrees Celsius all the way up to 85 degrees Celsius. So well beyond on either end what I'm likely to use it for. And in fact, I think most people are unlikely to use it like that unless they use it for a shall we say, a semi-permanent setup, maybe on a cabin somewhere that you want to set these up. You, in your area, might get down to minus 20 degrees Celsius. We don't often, occasionally, but not often. 85 degrees Celsius, that's hot, right? But, you know, I can't imagine any time that we'd ever get up to that temperature. However, if you're laying this on top of, say, an asphalt roof in the direct sunlight, yeah, it can get pretty hot up there. So it's got a good range and probably safe within that range for the application I just mentioned. The most important thing to me with this is the fact that they are rated at IP68 waterproof. So these can be submerged underwater for a period of time without any worry of them the electronic connections being affected. Well, I don't see that happening, but I can tell you that we experience on occasion when we go car camping some pretty heavy rains, torrential with thunderstorms. So to know that they can, our IP68 rating gives me a good sense of confidence that these will be waterproof in the uses that I put them to. Now, they also have a bendability. I guess they call it a distortion factor. You like that? A distortion factor of a complete U-shape. So they are flexible. You know, you can see that, and I'm not going to even, it takes quite a bit of force, but you can bring this into a full U-shape without risk of it being damaged. Now, beyond that, you do risk causing some damage to it. So what's the value of having a flexible panel like this? Well, it depends on your application and where you're going to be using it. If you see using these on top of a small trailer or an RV of some type which has a curved surface like some of the teardrop ones do, then there's going to be some value in that you can attach these and have it conform to the surface so that you can actually drive with these remaining on your vehicle if that's the application you're going to use it for. So it is of some value. Now, there are panels that are even more, how should I say, flexible, but this one is certainly the average in terms of flexibility. You know, it comes to, what is that? That's greater than 90 degrees. It's not 360, but, you know, it's quite a bit of degrees if you can bring it into a full U-shape. Now, what really impressed me about these offerings is, unlike the earlier offerings from ALLPOWERS, the other solar panels that I reviewed, they had polycrystalline structures to them. And that's often referred to as entry level. It's very functional. It has a good degree of conversion from sun into energy, but at the same time, and of course they're quite inexpensive. That would be a budget line of solar panels, is anything made of monocrystalline, where the newer technologies are monocrystalline. So they have an even higher level of energy conversion, and as you see, these things are truly impressive. And they do normally cost more, but of course the costs of the monocrystalline panels are starting to come down, and that's one of the reasons why I chose ALLPOWERS, is because it's still an affordable panel for the type. Now, they have a specialized construction. I'm going to have to refer to my notes on this. ETFE, ethylene-tetrafluoroethylene. Okay, ETFE, no wonder they have it short, which is to say they have a heavy-duty type of coating on the outside which is really, really damage resistant. Unlike some of the earlier panels that if something sharp fell against it or you dropped it on a rock or something, you could easily damage the crystals, the panels themselves. Not so with these. You could virtually take something sharp like a screwdriver or a knife, and you'd really have to work to damage the crystals on these. In addition, you can probably see it kind of looks sparkly. That's probably not a really good descriptor of it. That actually aids in the reflection of the sun when it comes in at an angle. So it kind of redirects all the sun that otherwise would have or might have glanced off back into the solar panel itself. So very high quality. I'm very impressed with ALLPOWERS' ability to still offer these panels at the quality that they are at still quite an affordable price. Now, a few features on the panel I want to show you. First off is the connection point. So here is where the wiring goes into the panels. It is silicone sealed around this tiny little electrical junction. The two wires, you can see I have them coiled up with a couple of Velcros with the MC4 connectors on that end. And on the corners and down the sides are these rectangular or oblong shape grommets. So you have some choices here. You have 6 of them, 3 down each side. So this is where those Velcros would come into play. If you had something that you wanted to attach this to, then you could use the Velcros through those grommets to do so. And that's probably the application I'm going to be doing with it. I'll likely put these on the roof of my car. I don't have an RV, but I'll put them on the roof of my car where I have my PARs, my roof racks installed. And then I can attach these to the roof racks, not for driving so much, but when I get to where I'm going in Kujbaquak National Park, I'll be able to affix these to the roof racks on the roof of the car without worry of them falling off. Now, the other thing you could do, if you do have an RV and you don't mind putting some holes in it, you can actually permanently or semi-permanently affix these with the proper screw or bolt or something, and then attach them there. And again, you have the 6 grommets that you can do that with. Now, the last thing I'll show you is on the back is the fact that there are specs here for the panel itself. I wasn't sure what I was reading when I first looked at that, but I've since learned quite a bit about that. Everything you need to know about this panel and its safe use is actually listed right there, with the exception of one thing, and that is what fuse you should be using with this panel when you connect it with other panels in parallel. I had to search around to find that out. This was new information to me that I wasn't aware of. All right, what I want to do before I get it outside is talk about connecting panels in series and parallel. So before I start this brief discussion on connecting two solar panels together in either series or in parallel, I just want to point out that I'm not an expert in this at all. In fact, I knew very little, and maybe even nothing, about how to go about doing this. I made certain assumptions about it that turned out not to be true. So what I discovered, and doing a little bit of research, is that you have to understand a few things about each of these panels. Either way you connect them, you'll still get 200 watts. 2 100-watt panels will give you 200 watts. The difference is if you connect them in series, you'll get a chain, or in parallel, you will get different amperages and voltages, so different current and volts. And that is very important to understand, because your power station will be rated to accept maximum limits over which you could cause some damage. And I nearly did so, and I'll explain what I mean in a minute. So let's start with just a few specs on each of these 2 panels, because this is something I had to learn, and I will be putting a link to a video that I watched repeatedly in order to better understand this topic. So to start with, each of these panels has a 100-watt rating, and they have a max voltage output of 25.5 volts. That's important to know. And a max current output of 4.17 amps. So you multiply the voltage by the amperage and you get the wattage. Now it comes out to about 106 watts, but it's close enough. That's why they rank them as 100-watt panels. All right, so that's important to understand. Now, if you're going to connect them in series, in other words, just string them together so it's like you've got 2 panel or 1 larger panel, and you can do that, you got to know what's going to happen. When you add the 2 panels in series, which is the easiest of the 2 to do, the current remains the same, 4.17 amps. So that remains the same. So if you're actually doubling the wattage, what changes? Obviously, the voltage. Now my voltage is going to be 51 volts. I only have a couple power stations, large ones, that I can safely put 51 volts in. So I could very easily have over voltage each of my power stations. Now the good thing is those power stations all have protection, so if I had done that even accidentally, then the machine just would have shut down and it wouldn't have worked at all. And that would have been the issue, is I would have had a setting or a setup that wasn't working. So I had to look a little deeper. I said, okay, well, if that's what's going to happen when I put them in series, what would happen when I put them in parallel? Now, I know those of you who understand this better than I have already got this figured out. So if I'm going to put these in parallel, what happens is the voltage remains the same, 25.5 volts when the 2 of them are connected, but now my open current is going to change to 8.34. So I've doubled the current, doubled the amperage this times. And that sounds, okay, that's better, right? Most of my devices can easily accept 25.5 volts. Not all of them. One of them didn't, and I learned the hard way about that. But would they accept the higher current? Well, it turns out yes. All of my devices that I did the testing on would accept the remaining voltage at 25.5 and the higher amperage at 8.34 amps. However, there is a safety thing that you have to do when you connect two or more panels in parallel. And that is, you need to put a fuse on each of these panels on the positive wire to prevent any damage from occurring to one of the panels. And I don't understand a lot of how this can happen, but again, you trust me, I learned from the videos that it can. If for whatever reason one of your panels stops producing current, such as the wires are damaged or suddenly it falls over and now is in the shade, or something else shades it, what will happen is all the current will go through the other panel, and that can quickly overload the amount that that panel's wiring can handle. So you need to have a fuse in there to prevent damage to your devices, to the panels themselves. So what ended up happening, first off, I had to buy connecting wires. That was something I wasn't aware of. Yes, it's in the diagram, but it isn't well explained. So I bought a set of the connectors. I'll show you those when we get them outside. And I bought a set of fuses. Now I'm ready to connect the two of these in parallel, and I'll be able to connect them to virtually all of my devices except one. And I might as well tell you which one that is now. That was the Blue Eddy AC2A, the smaller 300 watt one. The problem is it doesn't have a very high voltage rating. It's a small power station. You really don't need to be putting 200 watts or more of power in it. So even one of these panels was too much for it. So that was just something to be aware of. I point all of this out for a reason. If you are considering buying more panels, well, either one large one you have or two or more small ones, then you have to know what the voltage and the amperage are for these panels, so that if you plan on connecting them together, you match them correctly to the power station you're going to be using them with. So that's just a safety precaution. I'm happy that my power stations all have protections that would just shut them down, but then I wouldn't have a system that works either. So I wanted to make sure I could have them working. All right, that's the discussion of parallel and series out of the way. I know somebody's going to advise me a little more deeply on things that I may have either misquoted or don't understand fully. Feel free to do that. I can appreciate all the extra help on this. I just wanted to bring caution to people that may be purchasing these and don't understand that what can happen if you don't connect them correctly. All right, let's get them outside. All right, I'm going to do two demonstrations with the ALLPOWERS 100 watt solar panels. First, I'm going to demonstrate one panel in operation by itself, just so you can see just how much output each of these panels has individually. Then I'm going to connect the two of them in parallel and hook it up to the power station that I have, and I'll be showing you the wiring, at least what I've come up with as the best solution for wiring the two of them together. So you can see the panel. Now here's something you need to know. These panels do not have kickstands or any means of being set up at given angles, specific angles. I'm just using a lawn chair today to set it up, so you're going to have to come up with something in order to do that. And I think that's a small price to pay, considering just how convenient and how sturdy these panels are and how compact they are as well, because you can conform them to just about any surface that you want. So there is the panel set up. Now the other thing I'll mention, it is early September and it's about 2 p.m. in the afternoon, so I'm past peak sun time. But well, there is a cloud coming. Hopefully I'll get this done before the cloud covers the sun. So let me reposition the camera. We'll plug it into my power station and we'll see just what kind of output we're going to get. Okay, hopefully you'll be able to see this in the sun. That's always one of the challenges when doing demonstrations like this, and that the image on my Blue Eddy AC70 power station, the one I'm testing on today, by the way, this is one of the two that I did take with me car camping. So it has the XT60 input right here, and it is rated, it says right on it, which is always convenient, 12 volt to 58 volts, 10 amps for a total of 500 watts. So let's see what one panel will give me today. We'll plug that in. It'll take a minute for the wattage, or for the power station to recognize the solar panel and then start to climb. So there we go, it's already starting to climb. 87. Seems to be leveling out around 87 watts from a 100 watt solar panel. So what would you say? That's 87% of the capacity, max capacity that the panel can deliver. All right, now in this second demonstration, I have both solar panels leaned up against the two lawn chairs. The wires are coming in behind. I have them connected up in parallel with their fuses. I'll bring the camera around so I can show you how that connection works, and then we'll hook it up to the power station. All right, so quickly, it's a very simple setup, and when you look at the diagram, it makes a lot of sense how this is done. You just need a couple of things that are not provided by ALLPOWERS. In fact, they don't even offer them as accessories, so you will have to go on Amazon or somewhere else to find these accessories. First off is this Y connector that you can see right here. So this is the negative, and it uses MC4 connectors, of course. So I have the two negative terminals from the two solar panels connecting into one on this wire, connecting into the negative of the connector cable that goes up to the power station. We'll have a look at that in one moment. And then the other set has an additional component. So being red, great indication, visual indication that this is your positive. It is connected to the two positive terminals from each of the two solar panels, with one additional thing. There is an inline fuse on both of them. So the inline fuse is connected on both of the, or each of the two positive connectors from each of the solar panels. All right, so that is the arrangement. I'll take the camera around, we'll plug it in, we'll see what we get when we have two panels hooked up in parallel. All right, so again, it's always challenging, hoping that this is going to pick up on the camera. Try to see if I can't cast a little shade for it. So once again, my XT60, same cable as I used before, plugging it into the power station, brings the power station on. It will take a couple of seconds for the power station to recognize the solar panel, and there we're starting to see it climb. It seems to be leveling out around 168 to 170 watts. Not bad for two 100 watt solar panels. Very, very nice. In fact, this is quite high in output. I'm very impressed with the ALLPOWERS efficiency in terms of output. So great addition. All right, I think we've seen enough now. We can wrap this video up. All right, a few closing thoughts for the ALLPOWERS 100 watts flexible waterproof solar panel. So as I mentioned earlier, ALLPOWERS has really stepped up their game by offering these two high quality monocrystalline flexible waterproof solar panels to their lineup of other offerings that they have. It really does give options. Now, as I mentioned, they've also got a new power station. I don't have that, but it looks like it has an awful lot of advanced features that I hadn't seen on their earlier models. So hopefully I'll get a chance to take a look at that a little bit more closely in the future. So I'm really liking these two panels. They give me a sense of confidence the next time we go car camping or in any situation where they might get wet, even if it's just from a little bit of overnight dew or drizzle, that these will perform and not short out. Not to say that the one that I did test was not weather resistant, but the company would not guarantee it as being waterproof, and these are rated at, as I mentioned, IP68. So if you have any comments or questions about these two panels or connecting them up, either in series or in parallel, ask those questions in the question section below or in the comments section below. I will be putting all the specifications I have for the two panels as well as the links in the video description, including what I came up with as the most important figures that you may want to look at when you're combining these two panels together. Again, before you buy the panels, make sure you're matching them to your power station so you don't receive a disappointment when they arrive. And again, I'll be putting the link to the video where I learned a lot more about connecting in series and in parallel in the video description, probably at the end of this video, if you need to understand more about it like I did before starting. Okay, until next time, get out and explore and take that path less traveled, because it will make all the difference. Bye for now.